All right, I hear you loud and clear. How do we shut down this stupid bow nose scheme that everybody runs in Weekend League? I'm tired of people running the ball on me and magically getting their run game to work after a few snaps. So in today's video, I'm going to show you not only a consistent gap shoot to shut down the most common way that people activate bow nose, but I'm also going to talk about the correct way that you guys should equip your defense to be best prepared against somebody who runs bow nose. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. What is up, guys? Zan from the Zan Madden YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to slow down the bow nose offense. I think we all know what this is by now. It came out earlier in the year with the bow nose program. It was on Bo Jackson, and now it's on William the Refrigerator Perry, this monster out of position fullback golden ticket item. Weighs 330 plus pounds, runs through arm tackles as is already. And then after 6 positive runs, yes, 6 positive runs, not even in a row, just 6 positive runs, which is crazy. You can rush 6 times for 1 yard each time, being 6 for 6, which is for all intents and purposes, terrible offense, and be rewarded with this ability. And basically, once this becomes active, a lot of players just lose games. You could be playing good defense at that point up until the point that he gets active, and then they don't have anything to slow this down. And the reason for that is that they're not equipping the right abilities on their user. Now, you could take what I'm about to share with you further and equip this throughout your team. I still think that this is a passing Madden. Big argument for those halftime adjustments that we never got in Madden 22, but hey, shout out to Madden 23. I'm sure we'll all fall for that box feature about how we're gonna get adjustments on the fly next year.
EA Sports, it's in the game.
Nonetheless, the best way to counter bow nose is to have tackling ability on your user or throughout your defense, because any of these tackling abilities, and it truthfully does not matter what it is, secure tackler for 1 AP, if you wanted to go crazy and go tackle supreme for 2 AP, if you want to use enforcer, crusher, deflator, you guys get the gist. Tackling abilities will stop bow nose even when active. There is no guarantee for being able to break the tackle of a tackling ability. So they want to spend 4 AP on bow nose to get him active, after 6 carries. They're wasting 4 AP when that guy, when lit up, contacts a player that has a tackling ability. So I want you guys to understand that if you guys want to go secure tacklers all over your defense, or at least, I would say maybe your defensive linemen, or honestly, something you consider would be reach elite, because bow nose doesn't break reach tackles either. Think about that. If you want to put bow nose or counter bow nose with reach elite up the middle, that's something to kind of consider. But tackling abilities on your corners, whoever's really your primary run defenders, the guys that are flying down and making that first contact with the ball carrier, that is super crucial. So let's go ahead now and go over to practice mode. So here we are in practice mode. On the offensive side of the ball, I'm probably going to go with the Las Vegas Raiders offense. This is one of the most popular offenses out there, from a bunch to tight slots type of approach. But it's also got the great run tour. If you guys go back to Madden 20, you guys remember the Oakland tour. There's a lot of that still left in this playbook. So a lot of players like this offense as a way of moving the ball. Defensively, you're going to be able to do this out of a lot of different defensive sets, but I'm going to take you guys into the nickel 2-4-5. I like to run the Baltimore Ravens defense. If you guys are struggling on defense at all, whether it's run defense, escape artist defense, covering all these pesky route combinations, crossers, corners, all that, go check out gridirongameplans.gg, because I have everything that I've done all year long on the website. You guys can sign up right now, get it for $9.95. I know it's late in Madden 22, but to be honest with you, if you guys want to spend the next month or so learning the defensive concepts, a lot of the stuff still translates into the Madden 23 beta. So if you guys want to, be in a good spot defensively when the game loads up, especially the blitzing the quarterback aspect, go check it out, because it's actually going to be pretty much a day one defense in Madden 23, if you guys were to ask me.
Well, better late than never.
But conceptually, what we're going to do here is we're going to set up a 4-down lineman front. And I think that with this particular tactic, I'm going to show you 2 different ways. One is a user gap shoot. That's my preferred method. The other one is an AI gap shoot, which is a little bit less consistent. What you're going to do is you're going to equip the tackling ability on the player that is basically shooting the gap. That way, he's the one that touches the bow nose and takes him down in the backfield, deactivating him and basically making your opponent waste their AP. A lot of players can't pass. So if they're running bow nose, usually they're tattling on themselves. If you guys can stop this, usually you win the ball game. But let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to start off with just your generic stretch, right? So here's the strong slot stretch. I see a lot of this run. And what we're going to do is we're going to put our tackling ability on the side that is opposite of the stretch. Now, there are formations that, you know, your opponent could flip the stretch left or right. That will be a little bit more problematic, but in general, most players like to run to the strength, the run blocking strength, that is, which is behind their fullback, behind their tight ends, sometimes two tight ends. And you're going to, with this particular tactic, just pinch your defensive line, crash them up, and stack your linebackers right here. Now, the key with this particular tactic is you're going to user this guy right here, and you're going to have to fine tune it based off of your defense in front. So go into practice mode, and we'll kind of walk through how this gap shoot works, but I promise you it's really, really easy. You're going to use the lock-in tip. We've talked about this in a ton of videos throughout the year on this channel. What you do to lock your player in is you hit X on PlayStation, you flick the right stick up. And what that's going to do is that's going to bring up the individual coverage menu. And what you'll notice is that if I move the left stick, which normally moves your player pre-snap, it does not move him. So it keeps him locked in place, allowing you to then steer the stick down where you want to gap. So this allows you basically to hold the stick down in the angle that you want to gap shoot. So I will basically preload my gap shoot based off of the lab work that we do. So I'm going to kind of start off with, you know, holding the stick down towards the center. And what happens is when the ball snapped, I can fly in and make a tackle from behind. Super, super simple. Damn! So again, you pinch your defensive line, you crash up, you stack the linebackers, and you take the weak side linebacker, lock him in, ball snapped, and you just fly in and make a tackle for a loss. You see that secure tackler is going to light up every single time. Even if they had bow nose, which I can't really replicate in practice mode, I promise you that you will take them down. There is no chance that they will break the tackle of your user gap shoot. So again, you know, you just kind of stack them, crash your defensive line up. Really, the play doesn't matter when you're user gap shooting. You could call pretty much anything. So let me instead set this up out of cover 6 invert, re-pinch the defense, re-crash up, re-lock in. Here it is. It's the same gap shoot, Now I tripped and fell right there. You know, it's not going to be 100% perfect every time. Your user's going to be dependent on how good you are at usering. But again, very, very easy to do this. You're going to find that, you know, it's very, very difficult for the offensive line to actually block you. You know, and kind of to boot, it's not that bad if you just call cover 2 and crash your line up. I mean, you're telling your defensive line to pursue outside on both sides. That way, left or right, you've got something a little bit equipped to handle. Again, here you see that I'm able to gap shoot, dive tackle, and that secure tackler, when you do the dive animations, it really, those dive animations are considered conservative tackles. So it gives you a really, really, really wide margin for error, more so than if you didn't have a tackling ability. But I find dive tackling to be easy without a tackling ability. The difference is that if they have bow nose active and you've got a good dive tackle but no secure tackler, they're going to break that tackle and keep running, which is really the bulk of the damage that is done by the bow nose. But again, as I do this, you know, you just see how easy this is. Dive tackle, dive tackle, dive tackle. Really, really, really cake. Easy thing to gap shoot. Now, this does apply to other formations as well. Let's take, for instance, let's go to the shotgun. The shotgun, for instance, has, especially in the Raiders playbook, the off tackle. This run is filthy, filthy, filthy. A lot of players love to run this. And, you know, it can be tough to stop when you pair it with boot over. But again, in this situation, our tackling ability is on the wrong side here, but you would just lock in with your user. Use Bobby Okereke here, and you're just going to dive in. You see, I got a gap shoot. Very, very easy. It's the same concept. Basically, any outside zone blocking scheme blocks this way. And the crash up of your defensive line is actually very, very important. If I were to crash left, all of a sudden that defensive tackle that I'm crashing is also going left, which is going to change how my gap shoot works. And you see right there that muddies it up. I don't have a clean lane. You really want to spread and crash them out, which makes that interior gap, that A gap that we're shooting through, open up even wider. So again here, I just kind of lock him in. I know that is coming, and right there I just gap shot wrong. So as you're labbing through this, you're gonna kind of micro tune the way that you gap shoot. Whenever you have a failed rep, go into instant replay and try to figure out what you did wrong. Right there, I think really I just over pursued the gap. Really, I should have come in straight down. Because I came in a little bit too flat and not steep enough, that's why I got blocked. So really, now what I'm going to do is just trust the gap shoot. I'm really aiming at the right shoulder rather of the center. You see right here, I'm going to fly in. Right there, they chipped me, but it really wasn't enough to actually block me on that play. Still pretty good. Now, I would advise that if you guys are interested in this, the best user in the game to do this with is probably Cam Chancellor. And the reason for that is he gets the free out of my way, which makes him instant shed a lot of those blocks. It's almost like they're not even touching him. That way, if your gap shoot's a little bit less consistent, you could pair a 1 AP secure tackler with the free out of my way. And it's only going to cost you 1 AP. And that's a really good cocktail to use on a player that you're using to counter bow nose. Out of my way to get those wimpy blockers out of the way, and then actually have the secure tackler to bring down the bow nose, whether that's Bo Jackson or William the Refrigerator Perry. Now, I probably think that some of you are wondering, will this work against RPOs? And the truth is, RPOs are a little bit different. So let me go ahead and take, for instance, a pretty common one. I think the wing slot stretch alert bubble. You may notice that results vary based off of different stretch RPOs. So I'm going to take that same approach to this. I'm going to lock him in. And you're going to see that it kind of pass blocks instead of run blocking. They kind of wedge up to that gap. So what I want you guys to do against stretch RPOs is kind of go back to the original gap shoot defense that I used. I put a video out on the YouTube channel not too long ago about how to stop stretch RPOs. Basically involved kind of stacking here and then trying to go front side. Again, these block mad differently. So you might actually want to call like quarters. Just reference that video. I'm not going to do that tip over here in this one, but I do want to touch on the AI version of this. Let's say that you don't like gap shooting. You don't feel comfortable doing it. Maybe your league outlaws it. If you're playing a CFM that prevents gap shoots from, different formations. I don't know what your scenario is exactly, but you've got to find ways to be able to stop these tactics when, usering too much is not allowed, right? So what we're going to do is we are going to set up a variation of this that you're basically going to rely on a backside AI blitzer. And this isn't too bad because this actually doubles his pressure as well if they go 5 out. But in general, you're going to be putting this guy here, crashing up and blitzing him. This is far and away the least consistent version of this, but you see right there, see how basically he just blitzes straight down, which is kind of brutal. This works really, really, really well against certain runs. The other thing to consider is that like hash mark kind of creates different blitz angles and different blocking angles. For some reason, when this is run on a hash, I noticed that this becomes a little bit more consistent. No promises here on this particular one, but again, here you see how like, again, he just kind of reacts slowly. So there's a lot of things in play that dictate whether your gap shoot's going to be consistent. What's the front that they're in offensively, or the formation that they're in offensively? What's the pursuit, play recognition, awareness of your player that you're blitzing? There's a lot of things that kind of come into play when you're doing this. So case in point, let me go back to the gun bunch tight end with that off tackle. A very, very popular run. If you want to do this tactic against this, you actually may notice decent results. You're going to see here, he kind of got cut blocked, but you can kind of fiddle around with this as a concept, in terms of just blitzing, and maybe this will help you with. You see right here, really what's happening is that right tackle is kind of able to cut the legs out of that guy. At this point, this looks perfect until that guy throws that block, right? So what you might need to do is, fiddle around with maybe moving an extra player down in the box. Maybe bring this guy down. Does that change the block targeting? There's a lot of different variables in play that can change things. Right there, it didn't. But again, still kind of important. Now, of course, there are other gap shoots for this run. We have talked about this. I believe if you basically line up here, use the lock-in tip, and then just run straight down like this, it works. So, there's different ways to stop it. And I think that's what this tip is more so about. That user gap shoot with a secure tackler is going to basically cure that user gap shoot with a secure tackler is probably the best way to cure what woes you. So make sure that you are taking advantage of this tip. This is something that, is huge for me. I definitely use this gap shoot. I don't necessarily play with the secure tacklers, if we're being honest. I know for a fact that this is something that's great. I find that the majority of the games that I play, I'd say more than 90% of the games I play aren't against bonos, but I know that when I load into a game against bonos, I regret not having them. I still win the majority of the games because I usually have a good gap shoot, and if I can at least let him break that tackle, hopefully someone else sheds and gets a tackle for loss to get him out of the zone, and then they have to start over again. That's kind of my goals. Like, okay, you might be able to get bonos once in a game, but then that kind of makes them one-dimensional, and I know my gap shoots are consistent. Eventually I'm gonna get one where they get a broken tackle animation and then stumble, and then somebody else can bring them down. That's another way that you can go about it as well. But nonetheless, I hope you guys liked today's video. I know for sure that this gap shoot has been something I've used a lot lately, and I hope it helps you guys out. We'll see you guys right back here tomorrow. Until then, this is Zan. Get in the lab, and good luck.